To see or not to see.
Join the restaurant, try the lottery, or pay full price because it's the best show you'll see.
To see or not to see.
Hey party people, we are back in action, bringing you information about the house that will not stand. In the heat of summer, Louisiana passed from France to the United States. On the eve of the transfer, in a house in mourning, freedom hangs in the balance for a steely widow and her 3 eligible daughters, all free women of color. Inspired by Federico, García, Lorca's La Casa de Bernarda, Alba, Marcus Gardley's lyrical, nuanced play, That House That Will Not Stand, is directed by Obie Award winner Lileana Blain-Cruz.
Well, right when you walk in the theater, they're playing Beyonce, it's like Beyonce's greatest hits.
But then also, I was really pleased to hear a little bit of Big Frida.
Oh yeah.
Jump, make the Buddha, make the... Oh.
Jump the rope, jump the rope. Get back, get back, get back, get back. Yes. Right when you walk in, the mood is set, the scene is set. It's all about Louisiana. And even though they're giving you current day songs, they're going to throw you back into the period of slavery. When you walk in, there's a body on stage. And at first I was like, is that a real body? But then it never breathed. I watched for it to breathe. It never breathed.
I knew it wasn't a real body from where I was sitting. But I will say the house, the set was amazing. And actually, I got back from Louisiana maybe last month. And it was very reminiscent of the style there. And the scenic design by Rigg. So the lighting was good as well, with the little candles flickering in the house. What I liked about the current music and the set being in the past is it kind of brings to light this story that's old, that's been told before, but reworked into new. It's old and new mixed together, and that's what they did physically in the space as well, which I enjoyed.
The gist of the story is that there's a mother, she has 3 eligible daughters, they're all going through mourning. And the father, who happens to be a white man,
and the mother was his place.
Which I'd never heard before, but that must mean black mistress.
Because he had
a wife.
Yes.
And there's this, apparently there was this whole signing where you have papers and someone takes you as their place.
It was a legal mistress because white people and people of color could still not technically be married. So it was kind of a cover-up, a way for the white men to still have the women of color, but their white wives in life as well.
The eligible daughters, of course, are getting up there in age, and they too want to be spoken for. And so I thought it was really interesting because at one point I was like, oh, this is kind of like Cinderella. They want to go to the ball and get chose. But a couple of different things happened. I thought throughout, especially the first act, I was into it. I was captivated by it. It was fast. The speed was really something that kept me engaged.
So it's a cast of all women, and they're all kind of in this stage of uncertainty, just like America is at that time. And that uncertainty was very palpable. Like, you could feel that tension. You were going along for the journey, wanting to figure out, how would this be resolved? Will the women be spoken for, or will they stay at home like their mother, played by Linda Levi? We saw her in Skeleton Crew.
Oh, that was
her. So Linda made this really, it was completely 2 different opposite characters. Because she's more mannish in Skeleton Crew, and here she spoke mannish because she didn't take any foolishness, but she was dressed in a very refined manner.
I was hoping to see more depth and range in her, in the way that she delivered her lines. I felt like they were always kind of like this. And that was the manner of this particular woman, but it wasn't layered.
The strength, was very intense, and her accent, kind of quite didn't line up with everyone else's. Her accent was a little modern, but I thought it worked because her demeanor was completely different from the rest of the women in the cast. I really loved the performance by Harriet DeFoy. I thought she gave a lot of levels. It got a little too deep for me when they were trying to go back into the African scene to teach the darkest sister, who was played by Jonice Abbott, Odette Albans. She was a darker sister, so she kind of felt like she wasn't the cutest. But I didn't buy that she needed to go on that journey because she went to the ball and she was like trying to draw the attention of the men, so she knew her black power. So I think they tried to take us too deep.
Yeah.
It was a bit much.
That part didn't really bother me outside of the fact that she clearly was 16 and then it was almost like she was finding out for the first time that she was brown skinned compared to the rest of the family.
Exactly.
And I was like, that's not really believable.
But they would have never said anything to her, even though they were kept inside of the house.
Right. They dealt with colorism. Where they lost me, and I've got to say, after the first act, I was so energized at intermission, like into it. We came back, it slowed down for me, and then that possession scene.
I made a note about that.
I was just like, what?
Yeah.
There was a disconnect there for me.
And then we weren't really sure if it was an actual possession in the show or if Harriet, who played the role of Makita, who was the slave who was trying to get her freedom, was just going along with all this kind of mumbo jumbo because this is what the family wanted to hear. And then also Marie Thomas, I think she had a little bit of a rough patch the night I was there. Like she kind of messed up some of her lines a bit. Her delivery was still amazing. She had that self-righteous, I'm better than you and I'm coming for you. So her character was still there.
I love the shade. It was so shady.
And with
right
the fans.
Yeah, I loved it.
Originally where it came from, and they had a whole tea scene, spill the tea.
Yes, I thought that was a little bit too modern.
And then also I like the fact that they showed Makita trying to purchase her own freedom.
Right.
So while most of the focus is on these young girls trying to get free from their mom, Makita is worried about buying her own freedom. She collects money as best she can, even though she's a slave, and she winds up saving an amount that's enough to get her papers from Linda Gravette's character, Beatrice, who is the mother. It's really interesting. At the end of the show, Beatrice kind of says, they'll be back because some people leave. We don't tell you everything. There's still a week left to see it because it ends on August 19th. But she says, they'll be back. And kind of makes you think, is there really a bright side for women of color? How far can we get? You can still compare that in some instances to today.
And these were free women of color in Louisiana. And I thought the interesting theme was, what is the real meaning of freedom?
What is the real meaning?
They wanted so badly to be claimed or spoken for by a man. And the mother had the point of view that that's not freedom.
Exactly.
You're actually selling your life away to a man to be someone's place.
But then back then they're considering the fact that, this is still better than slavery. Right. But is it? Like you said, it's still a struggle of freedom.
Right.
But overall, what would you give this show?
Overall, I give it 4 1/4.
Oh my gosh, that's what I was gonna say.
5. Yeah. Oh my god, we're like so connected.
This time, knowledge.
Yeah. Okay, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I thought that second act could be tightened up a lot, edited, and then kind of just made more clear in certain moments. But overall, it was a great show.
And the costumes were amazing and were done by Montalvo Levi Blanco, and the wig design by Cookie Jordan. We've seen her work in a lot of shows, but the darkest sort of has her silky hair,
But yeah, we like The House That Will Not Stand, and if you can, get out before it closes on August 19th.
Yeah, and let me tell you, all of the women of color are going out to see it. When I was there, Lynn Nottage was there. Melba's, the Harlem restaurateur, was there. Nancy Giles from CBS Sunday Morning. All women of color going to see and support this show featuring women of color, which is really amazing.
Check us next time on to see or not to see.